Okay, let's finish setting things up. Okay. And I think I've got really crappy internet reception today. I see. I hope that will improve. All right, here we are. Hello, James. And let's see how things go here with this is really really piss poor video that I'm looking at. When I look at this on YouTube, really pixelated. So I'm hoping my Wi-Fi signal is going to improve. I mean, I rebooted my modem. But sometimes I suppose I should try and figure out a way to plug this in directly, except I have one of these super skinny laptops and it doesn't always, it's not easy to plug in things. And I tried before, and I'm just jabbering here because, I'm just waiting for, other people to, join the stream before we really get started. But yeah, there's a plug here. I have this other thing on the side here where I can put in other, plugs or whatever. And I tried doing, getting like directly plugged in, getting my, hard wiring in, and it just doesn't always work. So, yeah, normally I have a good wireless connection for the most part. It just doesn't always hold up when I'm doing a live stream. Everything else, that I do on wireless and other devices, I mean, I can run up to 5 different devices on my wireless network. It's just that some streaming type operations sometimes, and sometimes I think it has a lot to do with StreamYard, because I don't have any problems when I am doing streaming meetings using Zoom or Microsoft Teams. When I'm using these streaming options, I very seldom have any problem. So I think it may have something to do with, because I can see the little, the Wi-Fi thing on my screen, and it only shows like one bar. Yet on my computer, it shows, all bars, are lit up for the strength. So I really do think it's StreamYard God, I just look like it's like you're looking at me through pond water. It's just, I mean, I look awful. It looks like so 1980s, which of course, hey, that's what we're talking about, 1980s. So 1989, in fact, is where we are. So I do occasionally see other people log on and then they log off. So I'm wondering if it's maybe, why don't I just try, let me take off here and put myself back in and see that. No, doesn't appear to be any better now that I'm looking. The whole everything is like really screwed up. So I mean, this is probably my Wi-Fi network, which is sometimes it's like that on a weekend day for streaming. As I say, here in the studio, in the StreamYard studio, everything's working fine. Because sometimes even in the StreamYard studio, I'll look like shit. But it just doesn't seem to be. It might be YouTube. That's the other thing. It might be YouTube. Because I was streaming our latest Gunkles episode is posted, and I haven't watched it yet, but it didn't seem like this. When we were streaming and recording last night, that things didn't look bad then. All right, I'm going to leave the studio entirely and then relaunch this stream and see if that does anything. I'll be back momentarily. Let's see. It looked better for like a half a second. Seems to be, but then it's all going to shit again with the pixelation. So technical difficulties, everyone. We're seeming to have some problem. I'm having some problems here with my, Wi-Fi connection, and I'm going to see. And when I look at myself on YouTube, it's just shit. And yet in the studio here, everything is looking fine. So my only other option, I think, is to reboot my modem, which would take probably roughly 5 minutes to complete that process. And I'm almost of the feeling that I may just abandon this live stream today because it's just looking really, really awful, and I apologize for that. I know that what happens sometimes is when I pull somebody up on stage, that it will sometimes my video ends up improving. So just to a check here, James, why don't you come up and let's see if that, because that has happened in the past when I get somebody up on stage with me, my video for some reason tends to improve. And but I'm still only getting 1 bar from my Wi-Fi. It's just a really super weak signal. And so
okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
My
I want
mic
to
works.
check
Yes.
see.
See, I've got a clear picture because I'm using Ethernet. If you're wired in with Ethernet,
I'm not wired in.
This.
Now I look clear.
You look clearer now than you did before. That's weird.
Yeah, that's weird that it happens that way when I bring somebody up on stage. My video feed tends to improve. I'm not sure about my sync right now, though. If I mean, everything seems to be, excuse me, working otherwise. So,
excuse me. That's weird. Jeez,
so I'll see how. I'll see how it goes. It seems to be, when I get somebody on here, that seems to improve things. And, typically I like to go through my little introduction and all that kind of stuff, solo on my own before getting started, because right now we don't have a whole lot of viewers right now, possibly because, as I said, I saw people logging on and then disappearing because my video feed was just trash. And but once we get people up on here, it seems to do a little bit better. But
yeah, and sometimes your voice doesn't match your lips because of the
right. The sound is not syncing with the video. Audio is
like
not
those,
syncing.
Poorly dubbed martial art movies. I'm going to, something like that. But see, I support you no matter what. See, I'm here to help you out all the time because you come to my streams and help me out too. So I'm always here for you.
Yeah. Let me see here. So
I don't want to have issues with my mic, so I think I'm going to stay up here. I don't want to have it messed up.
Yeah, so we're down to 0 people watching.
Oh my God! Well, even if you had to do your intro, I'm just gonna stay up because I don't want my mic to mess up. Because sometimes when I come up, StreamYard messes up the mic, and then I have to reboot.
Well, yeah, that happens, but it's an easy fix. It just, for some reason, it connects to a different mic automatically instead of the one that you normally use, and that's an easy fix. But
Jorgen's on his way. He just texted me on Instagram.
Well, we'll see if like I say, I'll see if I'm gonna even bother with this, because
I don't blame you there.
I go to YouTube and I take a look, and the video quality is a little better, but if the audio is not syncing with the video, that's annoying as hell. That does not make for an enjoyable viewer experience, watching something where the audio and the video doesn't.
And also,
sync.
I noticed in the last couple of days when I've been watching videos on YouTube, it buffers a little bit and then it starts again, buffers. That's not normal, unless YouTube's having issues on their end too.
I've noticed this recently with, you know what? Maybe I need to clear my cache. Good God, it's probably been several months since I cleared my internet cache. You know, people forget to do that, and because your computer, your laptop is storing all the common graphic information so that the page loads faster. And and depending on all the different pages that you visit, then your I believe it's your RAM starts getting clogged. So that's what you want to do, is you want to clear your browsing data. Some people do it after every time, you know, they have their computer set for that as soon as they shut down, that it automatically clears their cache. And you know, but I usually try to clear my cache once a month. And here's Jorgen. So
hey, Jorgen,
welcome. Is that
good morning?
let me go to YouTube and look at the channel there and see if that helps, because, you know, as I was saying earlier, sometimes my video and audio will suck really bad when I'm the only one on screen, but as soon as other people come on screen, things seem to improve. I don't know. What's your experience there, Jorgen?
You mean with your quality? Your quality is, I think, better, and you're not thinking. But I actually, it's work for me as long as you don't think all that bad. There's the thinking I'm bothered with, but otherwise the quality of the video I can survive for my taste. But I'm not demanding.
It's still, if I just aim this differently. I don't know. Maybe I should go get some tin foil and put it behind my modem and redirect the signal.
Have you tried to reboot yourself? Reboot?
I was considering that, but you see, that's going to take some time. And especially, I rebooted the modem like maybe a half hour before this was supposed to start, just as a precaution to make sure. But yeah, I'm looking at my little Wi-Fi chart, and it just shows one little dot. So the signal, according to StreamYard, is very weak. But the signal, according to my computer, is showing it to be a lot stronger. My signal on my devices is full strength. It's got to be a frickin' StreamYard issue. So,
yeah, StreamYard. That's that.
But if it's a StreamYard issue, why do you are the only one who has the problem and not everybody else?
I don't know.
I know ABK has problems with StreamYard from time to time as well.
But everybody hears that, you know, when he has that audio issue, and he's in Stunty has that as well, where sometimes the audio when he is speaking gets clipped, and you hear this, like, you know, clipping and hissing sounds.
Yeah, it's almost, it comes from his phone.
Right. Yeah, that's because of the problems StreamYard has with particularly Apple products. However, everybody hears that. You know, it's not, you know, when that happens with his audio, I hear it, everybody else hears it. Same thing with Anthony. When it happens with his audio, I also hear it. You guys are coming through perfectly fine. When I go to YouTube and I look at the stream, you two are both really super clear. I'm a pixelated mess, and my audio is not syncing with my with the video. So
yeah, you look more pixelated on YouTube, but when I look here, you look clearer.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if it's who knows what. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The one option I have is, I could start. I have a bunch of other tabs open that I wanted to, look at. Maybe what I need to do is, maybe I can close some of these tabs.
Oh, that's my mom in the background, if you were wondering.
And yeah, so exactly, yeah, it looks like, and it's because my signal is really weak. So it is. StreamYard is saying my internet signal is really weak. If I could reboot, but that means I'm going to go off for probably another 5 minutes, and who the hell wants to wait around 5 minutes?
Have you tried an internet speed test?
That I live in a high-rise building with a zillion people connecting to the same internet service provider. They're not using the same, Wi-Fi signal, but
Yeah.
we're all using the same ISP.
On the other side, on the other side, right now there are 3 of us here watching this. 4 of us here. Us 3 plus Christopher. That's the only 3. And Christopher,
right, and
yeah. Before you, Christopher, I don't think it's that much problem if it's only 4 of us here. If you reboot and we wait for 5 minutes, I mean, Christopher, I think Christopher can understand if we say to him that we'll come back in 5 minutes or something.
All right. Well, all right. I will do that.
We'll take over the stream and keep it running.
It would be different if you had 15 or 20 viewers.
Yeah. So that's what I'll do. The other 2 people who are watching right now, we're going to shut down so that I can reboot both my computer and my modem and see if I can get a better signal, because my signal sucks. And we'll be back.
All right. Okay.
All right. Does this look better? It doesn't look like it's a lot better. Hello? Oh, does my audio even... I'll double check on this here. Look, my signal still looks like shit. Hello, hello. All right, the audio looks good there. And has anything improved? I'm syncing at least. Okay. Looks like the video is a little bit better. We'll see how things go. Yeah, it looks like I'm switching over here to YouTube and looking, and it looks like things might have improved with the reboot, I'm hoping. So, yeah, geez, we're already a half hour past my normal start time, and I am just having issues galore.
Now it works really good. It works pretty good right now.
Yeah, I went over to YouTube and took a look there, and it did look like so everything. I rebooted both my computer and the modem, so who knows which one did the trick. And I'm not getting the weak signal anymore warning in my in the studio box. So yeah, all right, great. Yes, people are saying much better, much better.
I'm sending a message to James also, so he will be back.
Right. So thank you everybody for hanging out here and waiting for us to sort through these problems. And I see people are, they're logging on and then they're not disappearing. Before they probably thought it was their, internet connection that they were wondering about, but no, it was me.
You see, when it is few people here, you can do this kind of stuff where you improve a bit.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed that before, that when I start the stream and it's just me on the screen, that it doesn't always look real good. But as soon as others start coming on, everything starts to look better and act better. So, anyway, here, let's just kind of wait a little bit before really getting started here as people join. And
let's just say that Rachel, with her 139 viewers, would have a little worse to reboot right now.
yeah, right. While I was doing that, I noticed that she's doing a live stream right now at the very moment. So whatever. Okay.
It's always good with alternatives for people who wants to see other things. Always good with alternatives.
That's right. And there's some, at least the records that I pulled for 1989 were pretty interesting. I've been listening to them over the last couple of days, and I listened to one of them even this morning just before we got started. Something I wanted to mention is, I recently did the video on the Chicago record crawl when there was a group of us, Chicago VCers, and we went around to some stores. It was a great time. There was a record that I forgot to include that for some reason I thought I bought it someplace else. And of course, as soon as I see the receipt show up on my credit card, the actual receipts, I shred almost right away, so they're not lying around. And so I couldn't remember. I thought I bought it someplace else, but I think I bought it at one of the stores, and that was a Cabaret Voltaire record, not from 1989, but it was one that I forgot. I should have pulled that out. Maybe it's right over here. Yeah.
James says he's on his way.
Okay. Yeah, it was this one here. This is a reissue of the Microphonies. Really pretty blue vinyl. Matches your shirt, Jorgen.
I'm blue, da-ba-dee.
Oh, well, yeah, look at that. We all are. Look at that. We're all blue.
We're blue, da-ba-dee, da-ba-doo.
Blue, blue, my world is blue. Blue is my
Hello
world
again.
without you. Who sang that song?
Oh God, I'm drawing a blank.
Me too.
Yeah, so am I.
Then why the damn do you ask?
But the song just popped into my head. Blue, blue, blue is my world. Blue when I'm without you. I don't know. Is that like Engelbert Humperdinck or something like that?
It sounds like that L'amour de bleu from the Eurovision Song Contest by France Gall.
All right. Well, you know, Google is great for this. Blue is my world. Blue is my blue, blue. Song by John Voltaire. Is this the one?
It sounds like blue, blue, l'amour est bleu.
It's Love is Blue, Paul Moriat.
Paul Moriat. That's it. My mother had all kinds. She had Paul Moriat records. She had Manavani Orchestra. Not to be confused with the Mahavishnu Orchestra. But
Moriat, wasn't that painter who committed suicide in a bathtub?
I don't know, but wow, what do you use? A toaster?
Beats me. I just seen a picture.
Although, yeah, some people will slice themselves when they're in the bathtub so that, you know, it's easy to clean up. You know, they're thinking about others.
Suicide is painless.
Yeah.
How happy this dream became all of a sudden.
Right, you know, just, you know, and how, you know, you start with one thought and then the train of thought just leads to this and that and whatever. And,
down the drain to hell.
right. And it all started because I pointed out that Jorgen and I were wearing, you know, blue shirts, and I was showing this record on a blue record that matches. Okay, people. That is
going to go up from here.
Yeah. And well, I don't know if this is going to go up, because one of the things I wanted to talk about, you know, during the intro phase was about this record order I just made. I have been infatuated with this song, Walk Away, Renee, by The Left Bank. All right.
That's a great song.
Yeah, it is a great song. And it's such a sad story behind the song, because the song was written by a 17-year-old, 16-year-old, actually. He was 16. And, you know, the person in the band who sang it, it was 19. But the 16-year-old, I had this stuff up and I can't remember their names now, but he fell in love with the 19-year-old's girlfriend. But of course, you know, there was no reciprocity there or anything. And he wrote that song because of the, you know, the unrequited love that he felt for this girl. And then it became a hit. It is listed in Rolling Stone's list of 500, you know, greatest songs, greatest singles, you know, in the world or whatever. So it became a hit. But the guy who wrote the song, the kid who wrote the song, they made an album, but he left the band. He couldn't. It was a hit, so they were going to be expected to play it all the time, whenever they were going to be playing live. And he was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And he left the band. Mm-hmm. So it is a really sad song, and not just in the song itself, but it was really portraying a very sad situation. But I ordered the single, a 7-inch single, along with a bunch of other records, so that you got to make the shipping worthwhile, right? If you're going to buy a $4 single, then and it's going to cost $5 to ship it, then you might as well order some other things so that the shipping will you get the same shipping price, but you're getting more stuff. So anyway, that was what was going on. Hello, Zeb. Glad to see you here. We had a rough start to this stream because my internet is just being a little shit. So, well, all right, huh?
All's well and ends well.
Yeah. Well, let's get started, I suppose. The year is 1989, and we are getting, it's not only the end of the 80s, but in some respects, it's a similar transition going on in music that occurred in like 1978 and 79, where we were moving from traditional classic rock. There were bands that were trying to cling to the old rock and roll of the 70s, and were already sounding really outdated. But then we were getting the new wave, punk rock, synth pop was kind of coming into this situation. We're at the end of the 80s. And a couple things I think were going on in the 80s. One, digital recording got to be really good in the early 80s. Digital recording was there. But now we're getting a lot better digital recording. We're also getting the kind of the post-punk and this whole new thing going on. We're also seeing to me, a lot more innovation in the synth pop realm, and I think I've got a couple examples of a crossover between traditional rock and synth pop. There's a crossover happening, I think, in some respects, and then we're getting this new thing in the post-punk realm where we're getting all these other things, both grunge and math rock, and a lot of other more complex sounds are coming out, but you don't hear them on the radio because radio is becoming, in my opinion, this is when radio really started to become formulaic, and it was really difficult to hear new music because you weren't necessarily always going to hear it on some radio stations. They were going to this corporate format. And one of my lifesavers in learning about new music was actually the MTV show 120 Minutes. Yes, I know Stunty will join, but he's infatuated with football right now. So there's a particular game going on. I don't know, who it is. I don't know what team he roots for. The only team I know of is Manchester United, and that's about it.
And as a fellow Swede, I have no idea actually what kind of soccer it is. I have no interest in soccer whatsoever.
Yeah, that to me is sometimes I like watching it. I used to watch hockey like after church. We'd go to church on Sunday and then come home, and then I think it was CBS. They always had the hockey on, and I'd go downstairs to the basement and watch hockey and fall asleep on the couch. But I still loved hockey. All right, anyway, why don't we get started with what we have from 1989, and let's see how it goes. And you can start us off, Jorgen.
Well, 1989, I was turning 15, and it was a year where the synth popper in me had a little bit of a depression. It was one of the more horrible year for synth pop, in my opinion. As here in Sweden, well, we didn't get that much in Swedish radio. We had 3 channels in 1989, radio channels to listen to, so it wasn't all that much synth pop in the radio and on the hit charts. So I was a little bit confused, still hooked up with jazz, of course, but trying to find new music. The soul music came very strong to me during the 89, 90s. Soul music started to come very strong. And I'm starting with the MTV and the cable TV that we had. I got more influenced with British dance music and so on. So it will be very interesting. But 1989 was not my favorite year of the music exactly. But it had some good moments, but it was a little bit stale productions and so on. But one of my absolute favorite albums from 1989 that I heard the first time back, I think it was 1 year later, but it was amazing. And that was, of course, Tears for Fears, The Seeds of Love. Which, in my opinion, is, it took them almost 4 years to do this album. It took a whole lot of money, and it was such an amazing, it was step in a total new direction from what they previously done, but it was very worth it. It was big, it was very beautiful, it was very perfect produced. And my favorite song of this year definitely is Sowing the Seeds of Love, which I feel is a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece in fantastic production, sound, and in just imagination. It's very imaginative, very, very. You never know what's going to come of this album, but it's very big, it's very powerful, and it's very, very fantastic album. Definitely my favorite Tears for Fears album out of a whole lot of great.
What do you think of their recent comeback?
Really good. I don't have their album, but from the songs I've heard, it is really, really good. I think that the singles are amazing. So I'm very satisfied. It's not compared with this one, of course, but it's extremely good. So it's very, very, very great. But I've heard some of the newest stuff before this, and I know that they have it. I also heard the solo stuff from Royal and Orcible, so I know that they had it. I wasn't surprised one bit.
I know they I believe they've already performed here in Chicago, but I didn't know about the show, and so I didn't get a ticket for it. But so with this one, Sowing the Seeds of Love, how does that, in your opinion, compare with songs from the Big Chair?
As I feel that the song Sowing of Seeds of Love is one of the best songs ever, in my opinion. I don't think that you can't compare it. I love songs from the Big Chair. I love Head Over Heels. It's fantastic. It's nostalgia. It's so amazing. Everybody wants to rule the world and so on. But Sowing the Seeds of Love is in a whole different level with imagination. You never know. All of a sudden, it's a trumpet coming in. All of a sudden, you don't know what is going to happen in that song. And it fits together so fantastic. Sowing the Seeds of Love song. So it's in a whole different level than the great stuff that they did in the early 80s.
All right. Because you see now, I do love the music. I do not have any. I don't even have any on. I don't even have a burned copy from a friend. So I have nothing on CD or nothing on vinyl, and it's just one of those. It's one of those bands that I need to get in my collection, but I haven't done it yet. So that's good to know, because I've always been more focused on songs from the Big Chair. And I remember the song "Sowing the Seeds of Love." I remember that song.
The interesting thing about this one is that if you like songs from a big share, you better get a wider eyes, because this is, you have for example, you have a 7 minute long live track here on the knife that it sounds more like it could be made by a modern late 80s Simple Mind, for instance. It is a step away from the synth pop that they did before, very much a step away from that. So if you like songs from a big share and the hurting, definitely you had to start to open your eyes a bit brighter, wide, because it's in a whole different level. It is, but they managed to do it so well that even though you liked, for me, I was a huge fan of those two before, but I hooked up on this also because it was so well made, and I love George Horstable's voice also.
Good to know. Good to know. So yeah, so I'll be putting that on my list. All right, James, what do you have for us from 1989?
I got a really good album. It's one of my favorites. And I don't know if this was his first solo album. It could be, but you can tell me when I show it to you, because I'm not really sure if it was, but it's one of my favorites. Tom Petty, Full Moon Fever.
Not his first, but yeah, it is. That is a good one. Yes.
And it has my favorite song on here, Running Down a Dream. You got, what do we got on here? Free Fallin', I Won't Back Down. Love Is a Long Road. A Face in the Crowd, Running Down a Dream, Feel a Whole Lot Better, You're So Bad. I can't really read them because the print is so blurry looking. So that's basically some of the songs. But this album is fantastic and one of my favorites. I'll show you the inside here.
Yeah, I remember Free Falling was one of those songs that it got a lot of radio play, and at that particular time see now in 1989, I was 31, so it was, my notion of music had already been kind of established, but then listening to Tom Petty and especially the early stuff with the Heartbreakers, it gave me, I don't know, gave me a little bit of hope for American rock-based pop music, in a way that some of the other 80, bands like, what were the big ones that were like Poison and let's see, Def Leppard wasn't all that bad. I didn't mind Def Leppard, but Rat, that particular style, hair metal was really big, in the late '80s, and Tom Petty was to me.
I think that was one thing that I was a little disappointed at in 1989. Too much hair metal. It was everywhere hair metals, and some were good. I'm not saying that it's not. Some hair metal is definitely good.
Right. Yeah.
A whole lot of crap. But when it comes to Tom Petty, I realized I thought I had that album, but I realized it was Into the Great Wide Open I had. I said before that I think that Jeff Lynne at that time became stale, and pretty much of his songs sounded very much alike. But Tom Petty, what he did to Tom Petty's album was an exception, and I definitely like it. So I will keep my eyes open for that album.
Yeah, that's one I don't have in my collection yet. I have a few
by Jeff Lynne with TP and Mike Campbell.
I have several Tom Petty releases, but I do not have.
Oh, I mean Tom Petty. That's what TP stands for. Duh. I should have known that.
But yeah, Zeb here pointing out, I remember the Sugar Cubes, barely. Okay, because that was a band that that I heard on 120 Minutes. So like 1989, 1989, I was living in this converted motel in West Yellowstone, Montana. And and I was working at this like hamburger and pizza place. And so there was not a lot going on in West Yellowstone,
Sugar
Montana.
Cubes is famous for one thing only these days, I think, and that is because it was the band that gave us Björk. And she came from that band. And I think that album is the one with the song Regina. I'm not sure, but I think it is. And that is a great song. I haven't heard the entire album, but nothing against you group. I think Björk is more interesting solo. No, I haven't heard that one, Christopher. Nope.
So that's what I remember about the Sugar Cubes. And then, then Björk was, she became the phenom that she became. All right. Well, what I have here is, I believe this was his first solo album. No, it was not his first solo album. Never mind. But this one came out in 1989, and that is Adrian Belew.
Who?
And he has a fantastic catalog, repertoire, history. This is Mr. Music Head. This song here that's blurting about "Oh Daddy" is a really cute opening song in which his then 7-year-old daughter, or excuse me, she was 11 at that time, sings backing vocals with him on the song. And it's there's quite a few, to me, really, really good tracks. It's a full digital recording, pressed on vinyl, and sounds really good. Oh Daddy is a real good one. And Bumpity Bump is another good one on here. And I just speaking of Bumpity Bump, I just bumped the cover. Bird in a Box is another really good one. The closing song, 1967, is this really nice song of reminiscence, I think, and also a song of like a mystical voyage or something like that into the realm of memories and what ifs and things like that. And there's a line in there that he wants to pin my soul to a hot air balloon, gonna make it pop and shoot me to the moon. Just really nice lyricism. And his orchestration, he plays everything. He plays everything on this record except on 2 songs. He has this guy, Mike Barnett, come in and play string bass. But everything else, all the other instruments on here, he played. Now he also was on tour. This guy is 72 years old now. Wow. And he was doing a tour. People talk about his work with King Crimson, which was amazing and fantastic. His work with Talking Heads, his work with David Bowie. But he got his start with Frank Zappa. Basically, his first. He had a band in Covington, Kentucky, which is close to a town in Kentucky where another band I'll be showing later came from, and had their first record released in 1989. But he auditioned with Frank and toured with Frank Zappa and the band, doing amazing guitar work, and also he brought like the comedic relief. He would wear these pretty outrageous outfits. He would do that anyway for quite a while he would be performing. And one of the reasons he got hired was because of his Bob Dylan impersonation. So, which Frank laughed at that and said, "Okay, yeah, you're in the band, but play guitar too." He never learned to read. Well, he did at that time. He didn't learn to read music. He would listen to records and then try and replicate what was going on in the record on his guitar without knowing that in the production of that record, there were all kinds of things done in the studio to make the guitar sound the way it did. And he didn't have that equipment. So he learned how to make those sounds himself using, whatever little gadgets that he could put together and do that. So just a really, really amazing and a huge catalog, working with lots of people. I had that called up earlier, but I was afraid maybe that was interfering with my with my bandwidth, that I had these other pages called up so that I would do that. But Adrian Belew, lots of material, lots of people that he played with. And if you're unfamiliar, I really do recommend that you take a dive into his catalog. And this is a very well produced. It's on the Atlantic label, no biggie there, but very nicely produced record. And yeah, it just blew me away that I knew he was touring. I had no idea he was already 72 years old. But Jesus, I think about this. He was touring with Frank, and I know he was older than I was, and I was already 30 years old at the time. So yeah, I mean, geez. So what? He's almost 10 years older than I am.
Never heard of him.
Very talented. Yeah, as I say, very talented. So if you're familiar with there's a trilogy of albums that he was on with King Crimson, Beat. Oh shoot, I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, I think there was a little bit of tension between Fripp and Belew, because those 3 records that he was on for King Crimson, there was Beat, there was Discipline, and what was the third one? I can't remember. I have them all, but anyway. He's a bit of a showman, okay, and I think that kind of Fripp took some issue with that maybe he was hogging the limelight, and he was also just this fantastic guitar player. David Bowie stole him from Frank Zappa when Frank and the band were touring in Germany. Brian Eno saw him play, told David Bowie, hey, we got to get this guy for our tour. And so they met in a Berlin restaurant. And as they walk in the restaurant, Frank was there with some other band people in the same restaurant. So this surreptitious meeting with David Bowie was like blown out, which of course Frank wrote into some songs during the tour. So if you know the Bowie album Stage, that's Adrian Belew on that. He did work with Talking Heads on Remain in Light. And he's also done work with, I think, Laurie Anderson, and just a lot of people. I had all that up on my Wikipedia, but like I say, I was having all those technical difficulties, and so I wanted to avoid opening too many tabs in my browser.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go that road.
No, you want to play it safe.
So yeah, I'll try and remember as much as I can, about that. But I really do enjoy pretty much all of Adrian. He's just got a fantastic catalog, and they're not that easy to find. But when you do find them in the record stores, they're cheap. I mean, he's not necessarily a sought after musician, but man, he is just absolutely incredible, in my opinion. Quirky, songwriter and player and talented. As I said, everything. So I think the friendly. We're going to get someone else joining us here, but his camera's not working yet. So, or at least I can't see anything but a gray box. So, Jesus. Okay, now I'm seeing the flash of the devil incarnate.
Ouch.
I think I know who it is. But we'll wait a moment as he fixes his issues with the internet. Jorgen, what do you have for us?
I'm changing style, and I'm going
It's you.
A little bit softer, a lot more Dutch. This is a Dutch duo, not duo, but group fronted by two girls. I saw this group first time at MTV, and they performed a song "I Miss You," and it was a video for a song called "It's the First Time," and the band's name was Louise Lane, as in the Superman's girlfriend. And I was caught up by that song. It was so beautiful. And then back in 1991, I found the entire album, and it was really, really magnificent. It was this album, Fortune Fair Tales. Louise Lane consisted by Suzanne and Monique. And they do some kind of a soft, relaxing soul pop, very relaxing, very summer style in my opinion. And I just love this album. It is fantastic. The title track is also really good. I Wanna Be, but of course, most of all, It's the First Time. Clark Lane. Okay, I heard of Clark Kent, the band, the television series. But I think that this is a really relaxing and just soft and really something to enjoy at summertime if you just want to relax. And I love their voices also. They sing very good together.
That sounds really good.
Is it a wine sipping music?
I don't drink, so I don't know that.
Oh, okay.
But I would assume that some would do that, yes.
Then we bring up Stunty on the screen. He's still digging through that vast collection of his that one of these days, I hope there's no earthquakes in Sweden so that he's not in his room and everything falls all over him.
Yeah.
But let him get organized here.
Sweden is pretty chill.
Well, you never know because
I was saying Sweden is pretty chill.
Yeah, there are weirder places where there have been earthquakes.
Let's just say a truck can just drive through it right into the wall.
I have one Fugazi album. I do not have that one. That's another one I want to continue to add to. All right, James. So, what do you have for us?
Well, for mine, it might be wine sipping kind of music, but don't laugh. I like this guy. He's amazing. He's got a beautiful voice.
I like Barry Manilow, so I'm not going to laugh at anybody.
Johnny Mathis.
Music they like. Johnny Mathis.
I love Johnny Mathis, and this is called In the Still of the Night. So the songs on here we got In the Still of the Night, It's All in the Game, Since I Fell for You, You Belong to Me, True Love Ways, Since I Don't Have You, Then You Can Tell Me Goodbye, The End of the World,
Jesus.
All Alone Am I, For Your Love. So this is a great album.
When did this guy kill?
I never heard of him.
When did this guy kill himself?
It's on Columbia label. So yeah, this album is really good. If you're into Johnny Mathis, and I like his song from years before, Chances Are. So this is this is a great album. So I recommend it if you're into that kind of music. That is.
He is he is wildly popular I don't necessarily. I'm trying to figure out here how this particular album. This album did not make it into the Billboard charts, uh, which he's had several, however, that did. I think it's his first record with Columbia. This is when he signed with Columbia.
Ah.
So, and yeah, that was his debut with a new label. So, yeah, Johnny Mathis. Yeah, that's something that would fit into my my mother's wheelhouse of the records that I remember she was listening to at that time, especially like I mentioned before, Paul Moriarty and who was the other guy, Jorgen, that I meant either you or I mentioned of that. Manavani that I was talking about. That music. There was all right. So when this was that, had he jumped off? Had Neil Young by then jumped off Geffen Records, or was he still with Geffen Records at that time? And then Marillion, I'm wondering, was this with Fish or was this post Fish? I'm not.
I think that Fish solo album was released at that time, wasn't it? First one.
So the Marillion album Seasons, that was probably a post Fish album, perhaps, or at least Fish was on his way out.
Swimming away.
Yeah. Okay. Do you, Stunty? Are you ready with something, or do you want?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Have you been flushed?
All right. There. He says, "I'm good," and then his camera freezes for like 10 seconds. But now he's back.
So who shall I cater to first?
Well, you know what? You just do what you want to do.
Yeah, well,
You're asking us.
So I guess
by the way, I want to tell you something, Stunty. Recently, I picked up some records that I'll show them when it's my turn, even though they have nothing to do with 1989. Right. But I was thinking of you when I saw these records.
So I guess I'll cater to Jürgen, and I'll show a record that is not necessarily very known, but it's the matrix of a lot of music from the 90s. And this is a Belgium record. This is the Pro 24th. This is the first version of Pump Up the Volume by Technotronic. This is the first Technotronic version.
Wow. I'm not saying that is a good, my favorite
and
song,
but it's really good because its version is that it still got the new beat roots, even some EBM and some also catering to acid house, but it's also really got this, and of course, Pump Up the Volume is a ripoff of Mars. The post-punk band from New York, but this, Technotronic, and so you got the Techno mix and the U-Riff mix, and well, it's this kind of record when you put it on, like at a party, like everyone knows that track, and everyone expects it to be something. But it's different because it's the original and it's way more stripped down and rough. And it's not a record you see that often.
You might have to repeat what you're saying because you just froze.
You're freezing now.
Oh, yeah. So Yeah, I was saying that it paved the way for, unfortunately, to most of the worst of the 90s, the Eurodance stuff. But that's when it was still actually a bit punk and like no rules, no blueprint, and they were doing their stuff. It was a little bit crazy. It was going in every direction, and it was quite cool, to be honest. What do you remember of that, Jörgen?
Pump Up the Volume is one of my favorites in the genre. Pump Up the Jam by Technotronic is.
Yeah.
But I will when it.
I have that on CD. Technotronic.
When it comes to, and then when we're coming closer in the 90s, I will show some Eurodance, because that kind of Eurodance I do like. But Technotronic was
it's Technotronic when this becomes Technotronic, because the track name is Technotronic, but it's actually Pump Up the Volume, the stripped down version.
Okay, I thought you talked about Pump Up the Jam.
Yeah, but you know the connection. I mean, it's the same track more or less.
Because Pump Up the Volume is a masterpiece. That is a pure masterpiece.
Oh yeah, it is. And this you should check it out, Jörgen, because it kind of foreshadows all the Eurodance, but you still see how it could have gone in many different directions. As it has some acid house, some new beat, some EBM, some techno even.
Okay, I am going to add that into my phone list of stunty recommendations, because I have a list in here that are stunty.
Well, to be fair, this is more of a curio in a way. It's a very important record that, if you are into the music history, but that almost shouldn't exist in a way.
Yeah, well, we lost just about everything you said there.
Okay.
But I'm going to go out of my normal routine here, because, as I said, there were some items, I have this list, that when I watch your streams or I hear you talk about somebody, in other places, and this kind of sounds interesting. And so I'd make this list of not of everything that you recommend. And when I'm in a store, I go to this list just to check and see if anybody has anything. And most of the time, nobody does. And I'll ask them, do you ever get any by this or that? And they're like, no. And they're like, I don't even know who they are. And so I was on a trip in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I sort of hit a jackpot. And then in another store, these records just started popping up. And the first one I saw that I just bought it immediately was this one. So I got this, and it's a reissue. I'm pretty sure, on this beautiful aqua wax, and absolutely amazing pressing, because it is dead fucking silent. You hear no. You do not hear any surface noise at all. So I was very pleased with that. When I picked it up, the guy in the store said, "You might like this."
Huh.
And I picked that up, and I do like this. This is a lot of material, actually, because we are talking about the 80s. Most of the songs on here are from the 80s. Are there any from 1989 in particular? But these are electronic music from Germany, Belgium, Sweden, United Kingdom. We've got let me make sure I'm reading the right things. Yeah. So there's Pink Ellen from Germany, Arvid Tuba from Sweden, Iham Echo from the United Kingdom, Vorbruk from Germany, These are all from 1980s. Really nice recommendation that that guy made. I am super happy with that. And then I started seeing this reissue.
Spiral Insana.
So, yep, Spiral Insana. This one I haven't listened to yet because they had two. They had two records, and I spent $80 on two records. They had this one also.
Which one is that? That is a reissue with a new
Of
cover.
Gillenskold, Gierstam, and I at Rydberg's.
Okay.
So
This
yeah,
one
it's a
is
reissue
more
with a new
difficult.
cover. They did a new cover.
Yeah.
it.
This one is a little more difficult, but it might appeal to your Zappa leanings.
Oh, I love this. I love
Yeah.
this. It is just absolutely, again, incredible. And also, again, an amazing pressing, dead silence, in the grooves. Which is really important because of the type of music.
Yeah.
You don't want to be hearing a bunch of hiss and rumble because of, the spaciousness that some of the sounds, have.
I
And
can't
then-
wait for you to introduce the gunkles to the joyous gayness of Coil now.
Oh, I might need to wait a while on that one. I have a plan of what I'm doing with some of my ones. The other thing I picked up was this one just because of the freakiness of the cover. This is an experimental group from I think they were from New York. Painted Faces. This is some weird shit, but I really like it. So yeah. The stunty karma was coming through on these last
Amazing.
last trips to the record store. But back to 1989. This
Now I
was
understand why he called himself Stunt Truck Confusion.
yeah. This is a record, the debut of this
Slint.
band.
Tweez.
And I forgot, I listened so much to, their magnum opus, Spiderland.
Spiderland.
Right. But Tweez, this was their debut. And this was, again, a real joy to listen to this. Just really, it's not bizarre music, but it's bizarre labeling they did with the cover. There's not a side A or a side B.
Is it an original?
No, this is a touch and go reissue.
Okay.
Because the thing is with, to get an original, there were so few of them pressed. And, they really didn't sell very well, but it's got all the, original inserts that go with it.
It was originally released on a very small label, and then
Right.
it was right away reissued on Touch and Go, and you got like a later Touch and Go reissue.
Yeah, right. So, and you can definitely hear the influence of why am I losing my mind here? Who is
Because you're thinking of the
guy
Pixies.
who did the sound engineering? Why can't I think of his frickin' name? Because they refer to him as a Durf sniffer. From Big Black. Who am I thinking of?
Steve Albini.
Yeah, Steve Albini. You definitely hear Steve Albini's influence in the sound recording on this, because listening to this, I felt like I was also listening to a Big Black record. And while the bass player ended up leaving the band, which was Ethan Buckler, he ended up leaving the band because he didn't like the way that
Albini,
Steve Albini recorded and engineered the record. Personally, I think the bass in this record sounds really, really good. It's the guitars that you get that real Albini touch to it. that they don't quite sound like guitars like they do in Spiderland, where you get a much better sound out of the guitars. You get that very much the big black sound, with the on this. But this was, the beginning and near end, of Slint. Is an amazing band, and if I recommend it all the time. If you can watch the documentary on YouTube, and that's the Breadcrumb Trail is the name of the documentary. It's a really good documentary, not just about the band Slint. I mean, these kids, when they were 14 years old, were doing nightclubs and, where alcohol was served, and they were touring on this circuit with like Jesus Lizard and with all these other bands at that time. They were part of that scene, and they came from Louisville, Kentucky.
And then they moved to Chicago, actually.
Right, because they went to Northwestern, where they're fascinating personalities. These are some quirky guys.
This guy, for me, like the Slint, Spiderland is an emblematic album, the second one, which they broke up like the week before it was released because they didn't expect any success.
It was an album that never toured. Yeah. They never toured it.
Yeah, and they went on to do Tortoise, which is probably one of the top 3 most important rock bands of the 90s. But Slint, I remember, like when I got Spiderland. I bought Spiderland almost when it was released, actually, and that was a very influential record for me. And but my favorite records of theirs is a 10-inch EP between the 2 albums. But
I have that one.
Yeah, one of these songs is just so fantastic. Instrument, like basically they are the blueprint to post-rock, what is called like post-rock. But Tweez, I remember like kind of having like very mixed feelings about it, being it's a little bit too pop and too like it doesn't really know what it's supposed to be yet. And I listened back to it a couple of years ago, and I was really shocked by how that one.
Yeah.
That is so good.
Yeah, you froze on that. Sorry to interrupt what you were saying.
Okay.
So back up to what you were saying.
I was saying that I was shocked when I listened back to it 2 years ago about how fun of a record it is, because you get the noise rock post hardcore is still there. It is there, like from Albini, but also from their influence, like Fugazi and all that, obviously. But you also have like these guys who probably went to music class way too much and had like a teacher who introduced them to jazz, something like that, because you can hear.
They went to an art school while they were in high school. They were at one of those magnet schools in Kentucky.
Because you can hear the influence of jazz, of prog, of pop, and all in a way that is pretty unique. It's its own thing. It's still like kind of a work in progress on Tweez, but it's actually a fun record because it's songs. It's a good. I would say that like the ultimate record of that kind of music is Unrest by the guys who ran the label Teen Beat. Very similar, a little more pop, but also starting in post-hardcore. But
and some people kind of say that they were the developers of what became known as math rock, because a lot of their songs are very focused on the rhythm of the drumming.
But Richard, like in 1994, before we even heard about math rock, before anyone used the term, we used post rock for Labradford and Tortoise. And post rock and math rock are basically the same thing, except that math rock is more connected to prog and later to metal, whereas post rock is more about mood and textures and ambient, basically.
So there's so many things that came out with this and with Spiderland, because one of the reasons Spiderland never got toured is because who was it? It was not David Pajo, but Brian McMahon. Brian McMahon checked himself into a hospital because the whole process of creating Spiderland just exhausted him. And
it's funny. I remember my first band. We were, without really realizing, we were doing this kind of music, and we had kind of to break up also at one point after we finished a big chunk of tracks, because it was so mentally exhausting when everything, like when there's kind of like a mathematical quality to the composition, even if you focus on the atmosphere, on the mood, like when you have all, because basically a lot of these songs, it's every instrument is from start to end of the song is doing his own solo, and everything has to work together. So it's it is for kids, young kids. It's you have to have the discipline like of the guys from King Crimson to do that normally, but they were not interested in that aesthetic. It's basically prog with the aesthetic of indie.
Yeah, when I watch that documentary Breadcrumb Trail, and I think about the music that they created, and I look at these kids who are essentially undisciplined. I mean, when they moved to Evanston and they were going to Northwestern, Britt Walford locked himself out of a house that he rented from Steve Albini. And so what he did is he climbed up the roof to smash a window and then, to crawl back to get inside the house. And then he never bothered to try and unlock the door or whatever, and it's just weird stuff. But they did have some kind of discipline when it came to creating the music, because you can hear it while they're playing, but then you see the way they lived. It's just if you haven't seen Breadcrumb Trail, it's on YouTube. Give it a watch. It's also the name of a song that's on Spiderland. So, Jörgen, what have you got for us?
I guess it wouldn't be me if I didn't include this album. Depeche Mode's live 101 album. Depeche Mode both did a documentary, kind of a road movie, following the band and a couple of kids going to the Depeche Mode concert. And it was released as a live album with from Rose Bowl, Pasadena, California. And it is, of course, one of the best live albums ever. Though
that's not nice to like the hundreds of thousands of jazz records, Jörgen.
I sorry for all.
We're bold here.
Jazz records here, but this Depeche Mode beats every genre. But it is also Depeche Mode is a band you're supposed to see, because Dave Gahan is such an energetic guy on stage. You can see he totally loves it. He's everywhere, and he is fantastic to watch live. And
I did not know that about him.
So this is a classic album among live albums.
That Jörgen, is it during that tour that he died?
No, Andy Fletcher died.
No, I mean because the singer, he died for 10 seconds or 20 seconds.
Yeah, you mean that? Yes. No, this it was for the
next one,
Songs of Faith and Devotion tour. Because then 93 tour they partied like hell, and they say that today they regret every bit of it. And he fell into a drug addict that almost ended his life. He was kind of dead for a couple of seconds. I read the book biography about him, where he says that how he came up to his home and to his mother and said, "Mother, I am a drug addict," and she sadly looked at him and said, "Yes, my dear, I know." But this is before that. Here they were just partying guys. But it's a fantastic album, fantastic live album, as many of the Depeche Mode's live albums.
Well, here, instead of typing a comment, I'll mention, if you watch that documentary, Breadcrumb Trail, there's a sequence in there where they go through how they created that album cover, where they shot the photo. Britt Walford's parents were involved in that. It's a good one. So I didn't. There were a few records when I was going through 1989 that were released that I have on CD, but I didn't pull them.
Good, very good. I'm proud of you.
I wasn't sure because I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough. But you know what? I think I do. I have plenty that to get through because I am thinking.
You know what? It's funny. Like when I went to pick some records, I saw, wow, this is going to be difficult because I have something like almost 400 records from 1989, and weirdly enough, it was very easy to pick because there were so many, like, oh, this is obvious. This is such a big, influential, historical record in many regards. So I could have picked many, but like, I only have like stuff that like I can talk like you like for 10 minutes about if it needs to be.
Well, and that's good that we we edit ourselves, especially when we have that much material. And I know you do. So, all right, James, what do you got for us?
Well, this next one will be up Jorgen's alley. And he's a legend. He's produced for so many recording artists. Quincy Jones, Back on the Block.
Oh, I forgot to pick out that one. Thank you.
Excuse me. I'll show you the pictures inside because
you need to take a drink.
There's someone in here that you want to see. You got Q. You got a lot of different recording artists in here, and there's one particular person you want to see here. I'll show up properly. There's Chaka Khan.
Yes, a fantastic song with him and Chaka Khan.
Yeah, there's a lot of Sarah Vaughan's on here, Ella Fitzgerald, there's Al Jarreau. There's a lot of people in this. I don't know if they're actually on this album, but this is really good to have in your collection.
Well, when it comes to Quincy Jones, you always have half of the American industry involved.
He had his hands in so many projects. I mean, he was there for a lot of things. And his comments about the Beatles always make me crack up. I mean, just like a couple of years ago, he was quoted by, I think it might have been Rolling Stone or maybe it was somebody else, as saying that Ringo was such a terrible drummer that they had to bring somebody else in to finish the session. He would say these things like that, and it just. Yeah, he speaks off the cuff in a very what's the word? In a very he speaks off the cuff. Never mind. That's it. But talk about a person who has been so influential in so many ways in the music industry, good or bad. That's for many people to decide. But he definitely was involved in a lot of artists, and in many, if it weren't for him, they never would have reached perhaps the level of stardom that they did.
What's interesting about Quincy Jones also is it's a guy that has such a span when it comes to genres. I mean, there's no artist that can go from being a jazz musician, big band leader, fantastics like that, all the way to be one of the biggest pop producers, soul producers also, and do that transformation from jazz to pop so smoothly and still manage to be so successful and great.
Yeah.
Well,
he knows how to make money. He knows how to make money.
And there was a reason for that also. How do you achieve that? He was not a very nice man.
Well, no, you can hear that from some of the interviews that that he probably was, you know, my guess is, not knowing him, that he was probably a taskmaster and relatively difficult to get along with. But
we can't talk in presence time also because he's still alive.
Yeah.
But that record that James showed, well, it looks like one of these, you know, like, let's do an album, let's calling my friend. But is it like really an important album in his discography, or is it like more like a fun album with a few?
It's a very forgotten album, unfortunately. It's good, it's underrated, but it is definitely not one of his more important. It's more of an album that he did. It is more soul album than the previous ones. It is more of its time when it comes to soul music. But it's definitely not something that people are counting as some of the most important when they say Quincy Jones albums.
And because it doesn't, like, from what James told us, it doesn't really feel like an album. It's like a collection of like tracks that he managed to record there and there with these people and these people, right? Or is there
some? Frank gave it to me. I haven't really listened to it yet, so I'm supposing that they're all on this album.
All
but it's 1989, so I just grabbed.
Gotta listen to the records before you show them.
Let's also say that when Quincy Jones involves people, it is not only because as a front artist, as a duet guy, he also has a lot of musicians, a lot of guys working for him in the background. I mean, in some of his albums, early 70s albums, you can hear some of the best musicians, but they all only play in the rhythm section, in the horn section. You hardly know them, but they're there, and you know that they are great musicians. But so it's not always that the famous musicians are in the front just because they're famous when it comes to Quincy Jones.
Yeah. I spend all week listening to the records that I pull. So.
Okay, that's why
what do you got for us?
That's why you're so chatty about them.
I know. Hey, it's my show. I can be as chatty as I want.
So I want. I'm going to show I mean, 89.
Yes, 89. And we got a little hiccup from you again.
It's Rock Band.
Your toilet flushed.
So the biggest band of the 90s and later released their first album in 89, of course.
Yeah.
But it's as much as I like it, it's not their best record by far. But there's 3 really good songs, and the rest is but another band that is seldom people forget that they started in the 80s, and first album in 89, much more influential first album than the first Nirvana album, even if people forget it, because it's actually sold 11 million records in the US without people noticing.
Yeah, I had that on CD when it came out. And because the song Head Like a Hole just really blew me away.
And what's great, like, if you like the aesthetic of one song on this, you will probably like every single song on it. They're not all exactly the same, but it's a very well thought out album. And when you look at it, like the personal behind it, John Fryer is mixing and co-producing a few songs. John Fryer is one of the greatest engineers of the 80s. And Keith LeBlanc from the pop group, and who was an acolyte of Adrian Sherwood with the On You Sound. So basically, this is like someone taking all his cues from Skinny Puppy, Ministry, Front 242, but adding other layers that makes this music. Well, it's still like got like of a teen angst.
Yeah. And you froze that teen angst.
But it is way, and it's a way more interesting album to investigate in depth than any of the, in my opinion, of the other industrial rock bands.
That that record did launch me on an investigation of other industrial bands, of which I heard like singles that I thought were like really great, but then when I bought the CD, the rest of it was trash. Fatima Mansions was like that. Their record Viva Dead Ponies. I loved the song Blues for Ceausescu. That was just to me a really killer song. But when I bought the CD and was listening to the rest of it, I was like, this is garbage, and I threw it away.
Most of these industrial rock bands from back then, like it's as you say, they have like one, maybe two good songs, but they were all on so much drugs, and they were like really lazy for the most part. Like Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, he was not lazy. He's a workhorse. That we see the result today. He still is relevant today.
Yeah,
35 years later almost.
If I saw a single release of Blues for Ceausescu, I would pick that up, just to have the single if there's one out there. But there was, but that happens with a lot of, with different, when there's an explosion in a new style of music, the record companies swoop in and then they just start signing people willy-nilly. A lot of whom do not have the chops to continue to even write other songs, but the record company, hey, this is something new, we better get it, and then a lot of stuff gets.
The record you bought because of me, the Coil record, I was introduced to Coil because of Nine Inch Nails, because Nine Inch Nails was such a big Coil fan. On his second album, he had the guys from Coil produce a few songs and shoot the first videos for him that were banned actually. But when you look at the credit, like the guys he went to help him do that, it's like, wow, this guy, he's got culture, he's got music knowledge, he's of history, and he's really a visionaire. You can see that from the first album, and well, he confirmed later.
Yeah. Well, a few people in the peanut gallery have been like chomping at the bit for this particular record, expecting Stunty to be the one to show it. Yeah, and I have it pulled. So hey, quit upstaging me, all right?
But the best rock record. Best rock record.
I did have this. This is, this is, as Anthony Fantano would say, this is a 10. This is a motherfucking 10. All right? There's just no getting around it. This is a 10.
What record is it for us unknowing?
It is, or a 5 if you're only using a 5, the 5 rainbow scale. Nonetheless, Doolittle, Surfer Rosa, that's a great one too. And I love Trompe Le Monde. A lot of people don't like Trompe Le Monde. I love Trompe Le Monde. And I have that on vinyl as well. But this one, I mean, geez, Louise. I mean, I'm looking to. This has got a weird. Um, I'm trying to look for. It's hard to sometimes figure out. The order of the songs, and sometimes I hate the way they do the inserts because you got white lettering, and then we've got this white background. And I'm 64 years old. I can't always read this shit. But when I'm listening to the music, all right, so I'll have to pull out the actual record here, to get that. But yeah, the opening track, Debaser. Holy crap. I mean, geez, we're just like starting right off here. And then, going through all the other songs, I think my favorite song though is Monkey Gone to Heaven. I just, this monkey's gone to heaven. Just really, really love all the songs here. But there's There Goes My Gun, Gouge Away. They're all.
Gouge Away is my favorite of it.
It's all the way through. It is such a great record. And my introduction to the Pixies was with Trompe Le Monde. That was the first that I ever bought, and I loved that record so much that I started picking up the other records. I still do not have Surfer Rosa on vinyl. I have it on CD, but yeah, I'll be working on that catalog. I love the way he, Frank Black, or Black Francis, or however you want to, give him a name. I love the way people describe his style of singing as scream of consciousness. It's just, when I first heard them, I was like, who else is like this? I couldn't think of anybody else who was, there were other bands that were doing this type of thing, but it was the first time I had heard anything like it.
No.
There were no others?
Are really unique. No, there's nothing like them. Like, also, the fact that like Frank Black, or Black Francis back then, he went to, I think he was teaching in Mexico for a little while, and that's where he caught up some Spanish, and sometimes for some reason one of the songs he will start to sing in Spanish in a very unusual way as well. And the way they worked with the microphone, these are like records that are very, very well thought out in the production, how they play with the different sounds of different microphones in a very musical and joyous way. But for me, I must say the secret weapon of the Pixies is Kim Deal. It's not Black Francis. She's the soul of the band. And if you love Monkey Gone to Heaven, you need to have the 12-inch because there you got some of the best B-sides of the Pixies with Manta Ray, Word at My School, and Dancing the Manta Ray. Like, yeah, it's a fun band to collect also because there's only like 4 albums before. Like the new stuff, you can forget it. No one needs that. But the 4 albums, the mini album, and there's like 4 singles that you need to have because of the B-sides, and then you're set. You got everything you need to have from that band, and it's the best rock band from America, I think.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but they're as I said, in my Anthony Fantano voice, this is a 10. This is a fucking 10.
It's
all right, Jorgen.
Now we're coming to a 10, a real 10. We're going to from this to totally commercial. But I talked in last year, 1988, about a band where I showed the record, and I said that I would return to it in 1989, and I will. I talked about a band called Living in a Box that I think is sadly underrated. This is an even better album than the one before that I showed in 1988, Gate Crashing. This is a really awesome and great pop soul pop album with a lot of soul and a little jazz in the edges, and very very happy and energetic. I love the singer Richard Derbyshire. He has a fantastic voice. The title track is such a fantastic and great energetic dance track. I also like She's Unique, soulish, soul popish style that is really, really great. I listened to this. I had this album on cassette and listened to it a whole lot of times. So this is a real 10 out of 10 in my opinion.
I am unfamiliar with them. I will have to investigate them further. Is that the name of the band Living in a Box, or is that the name of the record? Okay.
The album, the band, Living in a Box.
Is Living in a Box. All right. So I will. I'm writing it down so I don't forget. Something to investigate and look into. How did you find out about them?
They were popular when I was growing up.
Oh, okay. So a lot of radio play?
Yeah, definitely. The most famous song is a song named after themselves. It's also a song called Living in a Box. So it was pretty popular in Sweden back in 1987. And this was the follow-up that also had some really great radio hits. So they were pretty popular in Sweden when I was growing up, and they've been stuck with me since. Unfortunately, they only released 2 albums.
Well, sometimes some of the best music, is very limited in terms of the lifespan of the band for whatever reasons,
But as I said, I really like the singer Richard Derbyshire. He has a fantastic voice.
I have heard that name, Richard Derbyshire. I have heard that name. I just can't place it. All right.
Exactly, Christopher. Exactly.
It's a little reality brought you in. All right, James, what do you have?
Well, Michael Pilmer was mentioning this in the Peanut Gallery that I saw. So, Michael, here's your favorite album. Electric Youth, Deborah Gibson from 1989. This is a great album.
Debbie Gibson. Not Deborah, Debbie.
Well, it says that all songs written by Deborah Gibson on the back here.
Oh, all right.
I was just reading that, so it kind of stuck in my head. And I love how they do this side and that side. And my favorite song on here is Lost in Your Eyes. And Electric Youth is a great song. That's the title track on side 2. And here's the album.
What kind of music is that?
I guess you'd call it pop, I guess.
Commercial radio pop.
And
yeah, I remember hearing Debbie Gibson on the radio.
I've never heard that.
So. Atlantic Records. So yeah, this is a great album.
It is. It's a great album, no doubt.
I had it on cassette back in the day, but my friend gave me this for free, so I'm glad to have it on vinyl now.
I remember that when I went in high school, högstadium for you Swedish, I was getting this album copied on cassette by a friend of mine, and I listened to it over and over until I got an album version of myself. So it's a great album, definitely.
Yeah. All the fans were dressed like her. Well, that's cool. Debbie Gibson is very commercial radio pop stunty. I'm a very big fan, collector of Debbie. Cool.
Yeah, I've heard Michael name check her a few times. So I know the name. I just never heard this new music, I guess.
Hey,
Well, maybe I heard it, but I never listened to it.
I remember her from the radio days, listening. But that's what I remember. I remember her name. I don't remember the songs. So, Stunty, what do you have up for us next?
I have something for both you and James, as I'm going to show a movie soundtrack.
Oh, nice.
'89 is a very influential year in many ways. I remember now, like right now, there's this TV series that is a huge hit, The Sandman, that was originally a comic book that started out in '89, and it starts out in '89. That's the main difference between the TV series and the comic book, is that it starts out when something really positive happens to the world, the fall of the Berlin Wall. So like it kind of hints at like the story starts when there's a renewal of hope in the world. In '89, there's also a first-time director that gets his first Golden Palm, which is one of my favorite movie directors of current, which is Steven Soderbergh. And the soundtrack to his first movie, Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
I remember that.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's Cliff Martinez, who was the very last drummer of the Captain Beefheart Magic Band and the very first drummer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and who now is very known for his soundtrack work for Steven Soderbergh. My favorite being the soundtrack he did for Solaris, but he also did the soundtrack for Drive by Nicholas Winding Refn. And this is a pure ambient record, but not like synthesizer that much. It's really a drony and quite like lots of tension. And I guess it's probably the first introduction I had in my life to this kind of music through a semi-mainstream major release that was floating around. Even if like in 1989 I was 11 years old or so. So like I didn't see Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Even if the movie is far from as raunchy as the title, let's see, hints at, but it's a great drama with great and amazing music.
I do like collecting soundtracks, so I'll have to keep an eye out for that one.
I don't collect soundtracks. I only have soundtracks if I really like. And I don't.
Well, that's what I do too. I don't buy soundtracks just to get a soundtrack. I mean, if it's a good soundtrack, I'll pick it up. I like them.
Yeah, and this one, like the fact that it's the soundtrack of that movie for me is kind of like irrelevant. I listen to that like not thinking of the movie at all. Like there's no connection in my mind, or I don't make them, and it's just a really good. Ambient, experimental, but very great harmonics in it, like great record. And I think it's this original pressing is now maybe a little difficult to find, but it used to be like a dollar bean record for years.
Yeah. It took me. Recently, I picked up the soundtrack to the film Stand By Me. Just because I like all the songs in there. It's a good collection. But then I was going through all the songs on there. That movie is supposedly set in 1959. Only one song on this entire record was released and was a hit in 1959. All the other ones were like from earlier, 1957, 1956. And then the titular song, Stand By Me, wasn't released until 1961. So it's
well, who cares?
And you know what? It was Nietzsche. What's his name?
Jack Nietzsche.
Jack Nietzsche was the one who put the soundtrack together. So, but it's a good soundtrack. It's good songs. It fit with the film. But that happens sometimes with soundtracks that are periods. Period movies, period soundtracks. They don't always match up right. Anyway. So this next one, it's a Chicago band. They only released 2 records, and this was the second one, and it's the Slammin' Watusis. All right, this is Kings of Noise. So their first album was an eponymously titled one. This one. Very punk, post-punk. I listened to it a couple times this week, And it's kind of a crazy back photo here. Kings of Noise. So a lot of energy, a lot of it's punk, it's post-punk, but it's not. They were it was kind of an interesting thing that they were doing. I like it. I'm glad I bought it. I hadn't listened to it for like a long time. So again, this is part of the reason why sometimes doing these shows about different years, I pull stuff out that I hadn't listened to for a long time. I don't think they were necessarily very influential, but it was nice. And I had forgotten that they were a Chicago band. So just getting something from a local band that there was a pretty good scene going on at the time on Epic Records. So yeah, Slammin' Watusis. If you have not heard of them, and you like the punk and post-punk music of the late '80s, this is something that's worth checking out. It's good stuff.
Them. I know of them. I've listened to their record.
I have not heard their debut, but again, sometimes with Chicago bands, you would think it would be easy to find them in Chicago record stores, and it's not always the case until they get reissued.
Nothing. I don't expect anything to be easy to find now, but when in Rome.
Yeah. Naked Ray Gun is pretty easy to find now because they're reissuing everything. So as far as the Chicago punk scene. All right, Jorgen.
I'm going to continue with the Shanger soundtracks, and I'm going to make JJ very happy.
Oh, wait a minute. This is a T-rated channel.
Not that kind of movie, you idiot. Prince Batman album. Seb asked me about the Swedish band Bob Hund. I don't like it because I have a hard time listening to his yelling voice, the singer. So no, thank you.
He's amazing.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is. He's a national treasure.
No, he's not. End of story.
Yeah, he is. He is.
So what songs are on this soundtrack?
This is, I think, the Bat Dance is my favorite because that is so unpredictable. You don't know what will happen. You're putting a man like Prince to do a soundtrack to a cartoon movie. And of course, you get definitely a song that you don't know what's going to happen the next. So yeah, I really like the Bat Dance soundtrack, and we have Arms of Orion. Yeah, that one.
That's the single. And
yeah, I have
the album.
I have the single also. Arms of Orion, which he does with Sheena Easton, and you have Party Man, also an energetic song. So this is what you can call almost the start of the boom of superhero movies that we see today. But when it comes to soundtrack, there's only one that's really good of them, and this one.
For me,
I didn't know that Prince did any soundtracks for a Batman film.
For me, the best song on it is obviously the first one, The Future, which is it's really amazing because this came out in '89 and it's a house tune, and it's also a Prince tune. It totally sounds like a Prince tune, but it's totally a house music song, and it's really unique. And when you listen to it today, it still sounds modern and fresh, which. I love the Bat Dance, but the Bat Dance it sounds from 89, but some of it is really timeless. And I remember when it was released, I was a kid. Sorry?
It's never a problem when it sounds like old times. You don't have to sound up to date every time.
It can be a problem sometimes, or not necessarily a problem, but it's less timeless, of course. But I remember when I was a kid and I saw that in the supermarket, and I didn't know what Batman was, and I couldn't figure out that it was a bat symbol. I just saw weird teeth, mouth. And yeah, I felt like an idiot when I realized what it was.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, that's what it looks like, a gap tooth mouth.
Yeah.
I remember when the movie came out, and I heard someone in school saying, "Well, they even have Batman underpants now."
Yes. The underoos craze, underwear that's fun to wear. All right. So,
but really,
what do you have for us?
First song, The Future, I really encourage everyone to check out the at least the first song of this, and then the whole album. But it's so different from
I will. I mean, I had no idea that Prince did a soundtrack for, and you said you said it was a cartoon or a live action.
No, it's live action. It's the Tim Burton movie.
Okay. I'll have to. I might even have the movie
on
DVD.
Jack Nicholson as a Joker.
I'll have to check.
And Richard, he did the Purple Rain movie soundtrack.
Well, I have that. I know that. So.
Yeah.
In fact, I showed that
soundtracks
1988 or whatever it was out.
84.
84. All right, it was that long ago. Woo! I've been doing these for a while. All right, James, what do you have for us?
Well, this is a compilation that came out in 1989 of Elvis, and this has a very rare track on it that I bought it for that one track called Angel. It's a love song that's hard to find on any Elvis record or compilation. So, but it has some good songs on here, like Let Me Be Your Teddy Bear, Wooden Heart, and some other good ones. But Angel is the song that I really liked on this album. So I bought it for that one song because it's hard. It's very rare to find it. And that's from Follow That Dream. It's a beautiful love song. So that's why I got this album. So there you go.
Yeah, a few friends of mine have been like really super big Elvis fans, and I never really was. I have the one Elvis album that the Clash copied for the cover of London Calling. And that's not a bad album. I listened to it a few times. Yeah, that was Elvis was something I just never really got into. I didn't hate his music. As a kid, I loved watching the movies. I thought the movies were just silly and stupid, and they were fun to watch.
Yeah, you got to be an Elvis fan to really appreciate them.
So, Stunty, what do you have for us?
As Jürgen cock-blocked me with making JJ happy, I'm gonna go and make Zepp happy if he's still here. Is he still here?
He probably is.
I would assume that.
He usually hangs out for the duration.
You guys remember an 80s pop band, kind of ethereal, called Bel Canto?
I heard of them vaguely.
Yeah, from Norway. And they are kind of like a Cocteau Twins version, like Norwegian version. It's kind of between Cocteau Twins and Dead Can Dance, and a little more synthetic maybe. But like these bands had some synthetic songs as well. But the main producer of Bel Canto, in '89, he started his own solo venture under the name Bleep in your system on SSR, which is a label which means sans pleurs et sans reproche, which is a play on words on a French saying, without fear, without guilt, but sans pleurs, like the sampler, sans reproche. Anyways, this guy did a few singles and an album under the name Bleep before he became Biosphere. Admittedly, the admittedly the biggest name in ambient music in the 90s and 2000s, and still today. He kind of really put ambient on the map, and he started out with this kind of music, which is more like techno bleep house, as they call it, and he probably made one of the two most important electronic music records to democratize this kind of music, since there was this worldwide TV campaign for Levi's. I don't know if you remember that, guys, this advert. It's like a black and white short movie in the Americana countryside, where there's a guy who goes to the pharmacy to buy a condom. And the guy at the pharmacy looks at him like, really, you're just trash. And then he goes home and someone knocks at the door, and it's the guy who's coming to pick up his daughter. And the soundtrack to the commercial was Biosphere Bleep. And this is the start of a lot of stuff that is very important. And I need to show this at the time, which is also very important because it's the very this is Forge Masters, which is basically the guy who produced late 80s Cabaret Voltaire, Eurythmics, Yellow, even I think he did some Pet Shop Boys, Propaganda, and this is the start of British techno on the biggest label of the most influential label, all style of music of the 90s, as far as I'm concerned. When you look at the names that came out of this label, it's just insane. And this is the very first record. I have a white label promo of it, but I couldn't find it. But this is really 89 is the start of many types of techno in Europe, and these are like two really important records historically for that. And this one I love.
That Forge Masters is the label, or is that the?
No, Forge Masters is the project, the band.
Okay.
And Warp.
Okay.
And Warp had this
is
the very first release, and they had like a designer group design the color. This is their generic sleeve. All their early sleeves were this, and they had a sticker with the name of the artist which the record was in, so they could reuse the same jacket. And they had someone design the whole thing. The color was created. It was not like they took one color out of the Pantone catalog. They just created this color specifically for this band, this label, which became the infamous Warp Purple. And I had dreams of that color when it's a long story. I can't go into but yeah, it's it is for me in the 90s. I bought like so many records from that label, hundreds, literally hundreds, and well, it's like people who know that label, they know what I'm talking about. It's just they kind of became like, when people think about famous legendary indie labels from the 80s, like 480, Factory, all these labels. Warp became that and much bigger, and still exist to this day. They are still independent. They became a film production company as well. One of the biggest, if not the biggest, touring agency for left field music in the world. So it's like one of the biggest success story in independent music.
In one of my recent acquisitions, I stumbled on this compilation put out by Soul Jazz Records, and I ended up looking up their discography, and they've got a whole lot of material of releases that are focused particularly on 80s and 90s British house music and things like that. So and they didn't seem to be unreasonably priced, so I may be checking that out in Discogs, because this I really did enjoy. This was a blind buy. I'll be well, I think I already did a video on this. But yeah, it was a huge catalog that's on vinyl. I mean, they've got it on all formats, but they had the stuff on vinyl as well. All right, so I'm going to show this one that not groundbreaking, and I know it's probably not Stunty's favorite release by them, but I was listening to it this week, and I
Oh,
really enjoy this one here by New Order, Technique. I'm trying to remember. I thought I wrote down the name of the song, and I didn't. But I do love the songs all the way and love less. There was a song though on side 2, and I can't remember what it is, but it really gave me very much a Velvet Underground Nico vibe, and I can't remember if it would be Run, Mr. Disco, Vanishing Point, or Dream Attack. I'm thinking it was one of the early ones on the side, either Run or Mr. Disco. Look, this is like their 7th album, I think, as New Order. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's the only New Order that I have. I know I need to, go back and get some of the earlier stuff. But
no, you don't.
the opening track, Fine Time, is, but the rest of the album, I do like much better.
It's definitely a very, very odd song for New Order at the time, because I remember
Which one
hearing
was?
Fine Time.
Okay.
I remember when that came and I heard it on MTV, I was thinking, I was used to the New Order being an old synth pop band, and I heard, what is this?
Yeah.
Today I like it. This album is on my wish list. I want to have it. I don't have it, unfortunately, yet. But
Okay.
At that time, I thought Fine Time was one of the strangest things they have released. But now today, I think it's a really, really great song.
With the rest of the record, it struck me, and I only listened to it a couple times this week, and I haven't listened to it in a long time. But it kind of struck me as anachronistic given the rest of the album. So I need to, listen to it some more and see what
Round and Round. Round and Round is a great song.
Yeah. So Zeb loved it as a child, but now he's not a child anymore. So
Well, I think he is if he still likes the 2 first New Order albums.
Whoa, zing! All right, what you got for us, Jorgen?
Yes, Zeb, I am opposite of you, of course. I'm going with a 7-inch now, and this is a band. I don't know if she released an album, but it is a band called Akasa, or band. It is a couple of producers and this singer.
Oh, I know that.
Sophia, I think she is called. I don't have in my head right now what her last name is, but Sophia, and it is a British disco track with a whole lot of Oriental touch. She sings very great. This is British dance music with Oriental touch. I think this is and what's special about this one is that here in Sweden, this did not become a big hit at all. So when I heard it in radio, and I was like, I gotta have this one. I ran down to the record store we had then back in 1989 and said, I want this single. We don't have it, they said. And how do I do right now? So this is the first single, the first album or single that I ever special ordered in my life. So I love it. I think it's amazing piece of dance music, British dance music. One night in my life.
It's more pop than dance music, though.
Pop dance.
Like, yeah, you wouldn't play that in a nightclub.
Dance pop.
Yeah.
Well, maybe somebody has a dance mix.
I would definitely assume that it exists such an
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I will. I'm not familiar. Is it just a standard black vinyl?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, why did the U.S. have the giant hole in the 7-inch singles as opposed to everywhere else,
You know
where it
why?
was just
The jukebox. It's only for that.
okay. I knew there
On
was
the
a
other
simple
hand,
answer.
you have a huge market for cassette singles that we in Europe, at least in Sweden, never had.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the Lena Lovitch that I picked up, that was a cassette. You know,
I have 2
the new
cassette
toys.
singles. That's it.
Yeah.
Three. Sorry, 3.
I
Yeah.
know people
Okay.
in Sweden who are big cassette collectors. Sweden has a big, like what you know, Jürgen, what they call syntare,
Yeah,
like the where you put like industrial Depeche Mode and all that together. There was lots of bands doing that kind of stuff in Sweden that were releasing only on cassette. And the metal scene, cassette
I
as well.
I have a huge amount of cassettes, but we're talking cassette singles.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah,
And
yeah,
that I
that's
only
true.
have 3 of them.
Okay. James, what do you got for us?
So I'm down to the last one because the other two won't really interest you, so I'm going to skip those and just go to the last one. So we started with Tom Petty. So now we're going to finish with his other guy from the Traveling Wilburys. So this is a compilation that came out in 1989, and this is my uncle's favorite singer of all time. So we got the big O, Roy Orbison.
The Warbler.
And here's all the songs, if you can see them okay. And
That's all right.
His big hit here is Crying. My favorite's In Dreams. And it's on Monument. It's on the Monument label, which I'm not really familiar with. And CBS Special Products. Okay. So there we go. That's Roy Orbison. That's what I'm ending with.
And 1989 was also Roy Orbison's year, because that was the year he died, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's a possibility there that compilation was probably something that some subsidiary of CBS quickly put together, to try to cash in on his death. The one thing that I always found remarkable about, especially with Roy Orbison, it's and there's a few other singers like that, but with so many singing artists, the older they get, their voice starts to change in a way that they need to change their singing style in order to accommodate how their voice is changing. And Roy Orbison's voice really never changed. It kept that very, very bird-like timbre, throughout his entire life. That was one of the remarkable things that I definitely thought, about his voice like that. I think of that because of when I bought there was a live release of the 50th anniversary or whatever, of Jane's Addiction, Ritual de lo Habitual, and his voice had so changed that Perry Farrell's voice just completely changed, that he really couldn't sing it the way it was in the original. Although the musicians, man, they were spot on.
Yeah, but you're talking about like people who have addictions and who never take care of their voice, and people who do. Like Roy Orbison that didn't have the same life as Perry Farrell, and the record I'm going to show is the same.
You think?
Like the first album from this guy and the second and the latest one, his voice is practically the same. And I'm going to show his third album from '89 and his biggest one.
Oh, Chris Isaac.
Yeah.
The Wicked Game, his biggest song, that in France we casually called it the sperm song because it was used in a TV commercial for dairy products. It were very stylized commercial in black and white with a woman on the beach like pouring milk on her, and you had the Wicked Game in the background. So this is the sperm song in France. But
a wicked commercial for a Wicked Game.
But yeah, it's for me it's his last good album. The two first ones are really good. This one has a few really good songs, and his best songs, or his most famous one, which is really good. I really like The Wicked Game. It's the strongest song on this album, but it's since that he's basically been doing the same thing, and which is a pity because he was of course doing something a little bit retro and using vintage microphones and playing with that, but he was still adding like how would you put it, an existential crisis behind it, like a mellowness that was quite unusual. That I mean, it's not a fluke that he ended up in the Twin Peaks movie. Like this music is foreshadowing the same kind of ambiance and was probably inspirational to Angelo Badalamenti for the soundtrack, to a certain degree. But after that, he kind of became a parody of that, or going straight back to the 50s, 60s, and not adding anything new. But this, I think, is a great album.
I like that single. A total brain loss. What was the song you mentioned? Wicked Game. I like Wicked Game. I think one is a great song. But Chris Isaak in normal doses. I think that his voice is a little too high for my range. I think it's a little too annoying to listen to him very long. The whole album, in my opinion.
He knows how to sing. He's a great singer. He does stuff with his voice that he doesn't just like, okay, I've got a song and I'm gonna sing it. He's like, he came up with some stuff. You like it or you don't, but like, he's good at it. And I wasn't like, when I was younger, like, okay, these are good songs, but I don't care about them. But like over the years, I realized like in the early albums, he's got like some really good musicians and good good music tracks. And the singing suits it, and it's different than the two first albums of New Order.
Blue Monday, Blue Hotel is also a great song on that one.
Yeah, that's his second biggest song, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Zeb
was not impressed with that. But
well, I'm not impressed with the two.
What a shocker! What a shocker!
And
anyway,
isn't anything from I Believe Anton is 88, not 89. That's why,
I do remember Wicked Game when that came out, and as I'm thinking back on that, there was this ethereal quality to his vocals, and that just it was, I don't know, hypnotic and captivating, and I could see why he ended up in Twin Peaks as well, because that was such an odd series. But David Lynch is, I guess he's just that kind of a movie guy. Well, all right. So for 1989, this was a grail for a long time for me that I recently picked up. And I am so happy that I did. Got this on the original alternative Tentacles pressing. No means no. I mean, this is some just awesome, crazy. The bass player, I mean, it's two brothers. The bass player is just a fanatic. He just goes crazy. and so skilled. It's got the, the original insert, for other stuff that's for sale on Alternative Tentacles. Be strong, be wrong. So I just love No Means No. The first time I heard them, I was just like on this manic hunt to get this record. And it would show up, sometimes in record stores that I would go into. But I wasn't going to be paying the price that they were asking for it. It was just, nuh-uh. And it wasn't cheap when I ended up buying it, but at least I found a copy that was in good enough shape that I was going to be happy with it at a price that I was willing to pay. But yeah, this record
How much was that?
For like $200, and there's no way I'm going to spend $200.
How much did you spend, if you don't mind us asking?
I spent $150 on it.
Okay.
With shipping wasn't very much. But it's a Canadian band, and that's also part of the reason why sometimes it was expensive, is that shipping from a Canadian seller, a lot of them were Canadian sellers, so the postage was just outrageous. It would add like just crazy amounts to it.
That means that the fact that we're a Canadian band was irrelevant for shipping since they were on an American label.
But still, it was the seller.
Sure, they were on Alternative Tentacles.
Yeah, they were.
Okay, sorry.
The seller was from Canada as well. That's what I'm getting at. Most of the ones that were available for sale were from people in Canada. They reissued it. There was a reissue that I thought might bring down the price, but no, the reissue was going for like $100 and $110. So I was like, I might as well try and see if I can get an OG. And then I bought another one of theirs from the same seller. It was a live album, and which put the total price above $200. That way I got free shipping. The things you do sometimes to try and save on shipping. But the live album is really good too. But anyway, No Means No is just incredible playing, incredible songs. I'm so glad I got it now. And that was, a 1989 serious Canadian, Vancouver, British Columbia punk. Good stuff. I like it. So
guys, I'm going to head out early today because there's a premiere on YouTube at 4:00 with a friend, so I got to jump into there. So,
all right. No.
And I'm out anyway, but I'll be here next week for the 1990.
All right.
It was fun. See you later,
James,
guys.
Yes. Show music from 1990, please. Not music from 50 years before the reissue.
No. Oh, but I have to show that Elvis because it was very rare to have that Angel song on there.
All right.
I didn't waste money. It's for me. All right. See you later, guys. Have a good one. I'll see you later on Docs, Jorgen.
Yep.
Bye.
Gong had something in 1989.
Gong has something like when there are people like Zeb in the world, they will. I mean, they know there's a market, so they won't be.
Ouch!
But it's like you, Richard, with Zappa, and me with Nurse with Wound.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one who buys what everybody does.
No, I mean,
I have resisted the new Zappa live release. The last two live releases that the vault that they put out. I've resisted them. I'm like, this is no reissue. Yeah. Do some remasters of some of the earlier stuff that needs to be reissued.
For Jorgen, it's Depeche Mode. There's not a year.
You can't possibly say that. You can't possibly say that I'm the one who's holding up the Depeche Mode market. They're big anyway.
Well, speaking, Jorgen, it's your turn. So what do you got for us?
I said that in 1988 I would show some British dance music, and I will.
All right.
I showed this band as a 7-inch then, and I said also that I would show you the album, and I will. Mark Moore's S Express and the original soundtrack album. Great British house music that took me a while to realize how much important that this genre was when it came back then. I listened to it on MTV. Back then I liked songs, but I didn't pay much attention to the genre. But I realized later on that how influenced I got by the sounds of this and how much I liked it. S Express is really great. They have some really great songs here. I'm not saying that this is a perfect album. They have some weakness, some very boring tracks also, but overall a really great album. Theme from X Express, the single Superfly Guy, Hey Music Lover, also a really great one. So S Express, one of the best bands.
S Express, that says Sexpress.
I think it's a little part of the word game, yes. I would assume that. But I like the follow up to this album came in 1991, and it wasn't half as good as actually they were back this. This is definitely the prime of their career.
And there's a reason for that, which is because it's not a dance music record, it's a dance pop or pop dance. And the reason, one of the reasons is, as the cover shows, like 89 is the turning point. British electronic dance music, like the two biggest albums in 89 are these ones. It's A Guy Called Gerald, Hot Lemonade, and 808 State, Hot Lemonade, and
Guy Called Gerald.
808 State, Quadrastate. Yeah,
but
you see the difference?
Yeah,
the thing, like, let me just explain the difference, like the obvious difference. No face, techno music with no face. Like S Express is still part of the old tradition of like pop stars, and like they have him on the cover. There's the impersonation by a guy, and there's songs. This is music for the dance floor. Maybe sometimes there will be like a vocal sample, but not even on these. This is proper dance music, electronic dance music, which is not then dissing S Express. S Express is great at what they do, but it's still part of pop music. When this is living that and really embracing the 90s, what was going to happen when the second album from S Express, he's lost because the paradigm has shifted and he can't pull that anymore because you have to be a voice band if you do that.
First of all, I would say that I still don't consider it dance pop. I would consider it British, part of the British house industry, even though it's more commercial. But when it comes to the second album, I had it once, and I think it had not. The problem was that it was not because of a band that stuck to a genre that wasn't popular anymore. It was because of a band that was pretty much lost in what will we do now. They have realized that it wasn't 1989 and the British house industry had changed. They had no real clue of what to do. So they did a mix of something that it wasn't them. It wasn't. I would have been happy if they had done something similar to this. I was expecting that, but it was not even close. It was very confusing and uninteresting. That was why I think that for me the second album was a failure.
This A Guy Called Gerald, he used to be part of 808 State, Manchester, and he had this song called Voodoo Ray, which to this day is the biggest club anthem of British music. It is like, it's almost impossible to not like it. It's very catchy, a beautiful melody, and it's joyous, and it's also hard and sexy. And this is his first album, and he is a true, genius is an overused word, but like when you look at his catalog, how he managed to reinvent himself when trends were changing and still managed to do relevant stuff for quite a long time, which is difficult in that world. It is really something. these guys, when he left, they lost a lot, but they were the biggest techno band in the UK from 88 to 91, 92 in a way. And then they started they started to produce Björk. That's how they managed to keep relevant for some time. And but this one I still think is good. Like there's like 4 or 5 albums of theirs. That's the only one I need to have, and it's from '89. So, and you also see the aesthetic of this. This is the start of like this studio called Designers Republic that shaped a lot of the aesthetics of the 90s. When you look at like the video game Wipeout, the design was done by these guys, the guys who did these covers, and it shows. They were all obsessed with the future and a science fiction future in a way, but also how the popular perception of electronic music is necessarily futuristic when it's not necessarily actually. But it was like suddenly people didn't need a guitar and a singer to go to a party, and that started in '88 with the Summer of Love in the UK, and the first proper album came out in '89, and some of the best ones.
Believe it or not, I've heard of both of these names.
I know you do.
Is that photo cover? Looks like an atom. Is that from that sculpture that's in Brussels?
It might be. This is like very processed, so I'm not sure where they took it from, but it's obviously referencing that. Or there's also a sculpture at the Futuroscope in France. Well, it is about these ideas of modernity, science, technology, of course. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. Where is that? So does that mean that was you, Stunty? It's back to me. Sorry? Or do you have something in particular to show?
Oh, I have a few. Not much.
Right.
But I have a few. I have one that you mentioned before.
Jesus Lizard, yes.
With a cover for Maca, our friend Maca. This is pure. Recently, I've been making like not jokes, but I've been mentioning them a lot on Rachel's stream, and it's a band I saw. It's one of the bands I saw the most live. I saw them 6 times between 92 and 94, I believe, and it's some of the still to this day one of the best experience live. I love the records, but to be honest, it was all about the live shows. This is like noise rock and. But it's a very interesting band. They have like a long history. Half of the band was in a band called Scratch Acid that was more alternative punk rock. This is a little rougher and but it's got nothing to do with metal. It's noise rock, and they were a band that was quite special. I was talking about that with Nick Pentazzi yesterday. How in '94. Nirvana did a split 7-inch with them, with an original tune of them. There's not that many original tunes of Nirvana that are not published on a Nirvana record. And they thought, like, we want to support this band because we like them so much. So let's do a record with them and put them on the map. And, well, then a few months later, Kurt Cobain killed himself or died or whatever. But I got all of the early records, and which I got for like on this really terrible color vinyl, I believe. Yeah, like a really dark vomit or whatever. Like, what is that color? I don't know. I bought all these records at the live shows actually. So I didn't buy this when it was released in '89, but I bought it in '92, I think, because they were selling the records still during the shows. Like, you guys remember how that was, and you would go to a live show and you had to have some extra change in case there was some merch.
Right, exactly. So, but Jesus Lizard was around for a long time, weren't they? From like the mid '80s.
Their first record is, or no, '88 and '88.
Oh, okay, '88.
And this was their breakout album because of the grunge thing, and after that one, that one came out in '93, I believe, and then they had one last one with a falling dog on the cover. That was basically, they had already said everything they had to say with this, and then it was over. They had lots of 7-inch that are great actually. But I think because they're so cult, there's been a few reunions and maybe a reunion albums. I'm not sure, but like it's not interesting to me. But Jesus Lizard, it's funny because I've been making all these jokes lately, or like naming them in the streams. Like, why don't we talk more about them? And there were a few people who were like, "Oh yeah, of course, Jesus Lizard, they were so good." And yesterday, or no, 2 days ago, I watched the latest Jordan Peele movie, that horror movie called Nope. And one of the main character there, like a black woman, half of the movie, she has a Jesus Lizard t-shirt.
You were assuming that you were the only one who knew about them.
No. I know I'm not. And thankfully,
I knew about them, but I haven't really listened. But they are mentioned. In fact, they interview one of the guys from Jesus Lizard in that movie about Slint, the Breadcrumb Trail. So talking about that whole scene in 1989 and 1990. So
one of the big thing about Jesus Lizard, when you went to see them live, it was so physically intense. Like I remember being in the pit at one point you needed a break because it was so intense and so hot. Everyone was like it was like, yeah, you were a shower yourself. So I remember just like trying to catch some air, like jumping on the edge of the scene. That was always a little, surelevated. And the famous thing about David Yo, the singer, is that as soon as someone came on stage and tried to catch a breath, he would take his dick out and start to piss on him.
I remember the guy that they interviewed in he was intense looking. He looked like this guy is a serious dude and he makes serious music.
Yeah. He's a poet nowadays, I think, or something.
Yeah. We're hitting 3 hours here. So I think I'm going to show just, I only have 2 more records left. I just show both of them.
Okay.
I got B-52s. All right, Cosmic Thing, and it's Mobile Fidelity, but it's a silver label, so it's not an original source. Ooh, anyway, it sounds great. Great album too. What an amazing album. I was working in that pizza and hamburger place in West Yellowstone when this was released, and the videos were really good for it. It was this is a seriously fun party album all the way through, start to finish. I can't think of a single clunker on here.
I never listened to that one.
The ones that they played on the radio all the time, was Love Shack and let's see, Rome and Love Shack were the 2 big ones. But I really like Bushfire and Topaz and Dry County and Junebug. Those are great songs. The Deadbeat Club. I really liked them.
Believe it or not, I have this album. I think it's good also.
Yeah, it's a really, really solid one.
It must have been
the last one I have,
Richard,
is a compilation released in 1989 of John Lee Hooker. And what I've been recently, it's 20 years of hits and hot boogie, the Hook. So this was something that was, brought out. I can't remember when he died. So I think he was still alive maybe at this time, or maybe he had died by then. But one of the things I mentioned, I brought this out when I was talking about some of the music of the Tuareg music of Northwest Africa. So people like Tanarawen and Mdou Mokhtar and Ali Farka Touré, I think. these African blues musicians, when you go back and listen to them, this is really, to me, where the roots of the American blues are coming from, are from these traditional songs and sounds that came from places like Mali and Niger, and even to some degree Algeria and Chad, that area, which interestingly, it's that area of Africa where most of the slaves were kidnapped and brought to the United States, in the 17th century and the 18th century. So when you listen to, I also got a rough guide. I recently picked up a rough guide record of Tuareg music. And you really do hear the roots of American blues. That's where it was coming from. And you especially hear it in John Lee Hooker's technique, because, his, you hear about people like Mdou Moctar, whose first guitar he built by using a box and unwinding, the cable from a bicycle to create the strings. John Lee Hooker took a plank from a barn, with some nails, and used an inner tube and started creating sounds with that, And so the desire to create and make music with whatever you have is just a very deeply rooted urge. And I would almost say like a need, that certain people feel this need. I need to make this music, and I'm going to use whatever is available to me to create it. And that's what I've found so fascinating. And going back, and to me, that's the roots of the American blues. It's coming out of Northwest Africa.
I like the way you put it, the need to do things with whatever means, because that is my definition of punk music. It's not about the aesthetic of how you do it. It's like, and I have a huge collection of ethnographical music from all over the world. That is like the record I showed. I played it yesterday on my stream. Is music of this region, the southern side, the south of the Sahara Desert, which is like Mali, Mauritania, Niger, and indeed, as you said, perfectly right, the end, the bottom of Algeria, and all this music that is currently alive because people they play it live and then they record it with their cell phone and they distribute it.
Exactly, that's how they spread it. Yes.
WhatsApp. Yeah, whatever works.
Yeah. Really amazing. And I'm fortunate enough to see, I'm going to see Mdou Moctar for the third time next Friday. He's coming back to Chicago. And then Tenarwen, I'm going to be seeing them. They're coming to Chicago. So they're, getting a lot more recognition now and promotion in the United States. Just amazing music. It's just an incredible, beautiful, just really, really beautiful music. So that's all I have for mine. What do you got? You are gonna shut us down with, and then no, you get one more round too, Stunty.
I go through what I have now. I go take the usual ending round with a lot of. I think that first I should not forget this one because I think this is a great album. It's definitely commercial, but it's definitely a great album. That's Madonna's "Like a Prayer." That I think is consisting a whole lot of great albums. I like "Till Death Do Us Apart." I think that is a really great song, and even though "Like a Prayer" song is very overplayed, it's still a fantastic song musically. So definitely a highlight.
Madge did some great work.
Pardon?
Madge did some great work.
Yeah. And more British, this time with some acid jazz, Soul to Soul, Club Classic Volume 1. Jazzy B had his biggest time these years, and it's really cool, it's really soft, and it's really amazing with the strings and everything, and the voice of Victoria James and the others.
People love Soul to Soul in Sweden.
Yeah, so do I. Simple Minds, of course, street fighting years. Sadly forgotten, but really big and really amazing sounding. Really like this album. Really amazing, well made. Phil Collins, but seriously, maybe not his absolute best, but still consisting of some really great songs. Stevie Nicks, The Other Side of the Mirror. Also a really classic, really sadly forgotten classic that I really like. Rooms on Fire. I think that one is really great. And of course, when it's produced by Rupert Hine, how can it not be a perfect, great album? And we have the usual soul albums, Sheena Easton, The Lover in Me, with a whole lot of soul artists. Sheena Easton goes really American soul here with Ellie Reed and Babyface, Angel Winbush, Jelly Bean, and
No
Prince.
one would guess that this is a soul album, judging by the cover.
Yeah, I would assume that, yes. Sadly forgotten, actually, the comeback album from the Jacksons without Michael Jackson. I think it's pretty safe to say that it was pretty obvious that it wouldn't be a commercial success since Michael Jackson is not on it. But that doesn't mean it's a bad album. It's actually a really good album. So I think it's a very underrated Jackson album. Even though Michael isn't on it, it's still a great album. Randy Crawford, of course. Gotta have some Randy with her voice, rich and poor. And the soul classic that I listen to over and over, that I think is so fantastic, Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation.
Which has her first single.
Escapade.
No.
But I also like Rhythm Nation.
Oh, there's another one. I have the 12-inch somewhere here. Okay.
Miss You
That
Much.
was a huge record in the US.
The only problem I have with this album is that it's 1 million kind of interludes. I think those she could have skipped. But otherwise, this is a really amazing soul album.
That's her best album for sure.
I like
she won like what, 3 or 4 Grammys for it.
I like Janet also. I like Velvet Rope, so I think it is definitely her best, but not the they are very good competitors for it. So
that was about the time that they started that joke that Janet Jackson and Michael Jackson were the same person.
Yeah. Well, they never looked as similar at that time.
But that, as I was saying, that was a huge blockbuster of a release here in the US. I got
a question here from Sinbad that asked me if I like Hoot and the Blowfish. I heard very little of them, but the little I've heard is pretty good. But it's not my favorite. It's not something I listen to, but the little I've heard is okay.
I always thought Hootie and the Blowfish ripped off Bob Dylan. They ripped off his lyrics from When I Paint My Masterpiece. Anyway, what are you gonna send us off with?
Yeah, I have a few records, not as many as Jürgen, but yeah. So my favorite record of '89 with one of the few records. Well, it's one of the records I have like a favorite records all genre all time, and it's the list. Ooh, Sonic Boom from the Spaceman 3, his first solo album with a kinetic optic art cover.
Wow, that is.
You don't need any drugs to be high on that one.
Exactly.
Oh, and if you were.
and
oh, Jesus. Now they're even going there.
Yeah.
So the figure ground distortion in me is going, all right, what's hidden behind that?
So this music is kind of like you take Bo Diddley, Elvis Presley ballads, and experimental electronic music, and that's what you get. It's so lush. It's like a ballad record, very smooth, repetitive, lush, and eerie. And it's all the tracks are songs on it. It's druggy. It's druggy love songs, a little naughty, but like you kind of forget about it because it's just about this haze of guitar and organs. So it's kind of like a gospel, porn, experimental ambient. I don't know. It's just a unique record, and yeah, it was kind of intimidating when I discovered it when I was too young, because I could sense there was something like a bit freaky about it, even if it sounds not normal, but like it sounds very pleasing, very like there's it's not abrasive or anything. And yeah, it's a fantastic record. Going back to Africa, the breakout record of Khaled, probably the first Rai record, Algeria, that hit that hit the charts basically with the track Sheba that I love. Then he became much bigger with Didi, but much less interesting. This is still connected to the early 80s stuff from Khaled, and this is a great album. Something completely different, my favorite album from Clinique, a 3 LP box set album, Belgium EBM, dark industrial electro, like a little unsettling at times, but like really sexy as well, lots of energy. That was the soundtrack of the dance floors in like edgy nightclubs in Europe in 86, 87, 88, and 89. After that, they became less interesting. Something really abrasive. The first proper album, in my opinion, of Godflesh. Grindcore. Very difficult to depict the music because it's almost ambient at times. It's metal, but it has nothing of the guitar solos. It's very repetitive. It's quite. I don't know if it's aggressive or violent. It's just like very. It's a little bit strange as well. We were talking about Slint, Jazz Lizard, and all that. Like probably one of maybe my favorite band of that type of music from the time, Sebado, the Freedman. I think it's the second album from Sebado. Sebado is Lou and Eric. Lou Barlow from Dinosaur Jr. Like when he couldn't handle Jay Mascis anymore, he went to do his solo stuff, which I find much better than Dinosaur Jr. Mostly because I like his voice and I can't stand Jay Mascis' voice. And these are just really nice pop song, lo-fi. Like the grunge thing is coming also from that, but this is the pop side of it. And lastly, something that should become eventually a rabbit hole for Richard, the legendary Pink Dots with the golden age. Legendary Pink Dots is a British Dutch band that is impossible to describe. They do like medieval industrial prog, folk, jazz. If you like stuff like Zappa, you will be interested in that, because it's they built a universe of theirs that is unique, surrealistic, but also very romantic, way more romantic than Zappa or Captain Beefheart or The Residents, but still also very innovative and going in these directions, but probably with a more British feeling. And this is one of their best albums, in my opinion.
Legendary Pink Dots.
Yeah.
Okay. I had to go check it in order when you mentioned them, because I just ordered something by a band that Pink is in their name. However, the name of the band is The Pink Noise. And I tried to look them up. This particular album, I've listened to their stuff on Bandcamp, and it was interesting enough, but I couldn't find this one, and it's an out-of-print album. I couldn't find any place where I could listen to it, but I liked what I heard on the other stuff that they had on Bandcamp. I thought, what the hell? I'll give it a try. I mean, it was only $10, and it's a brand new sealed album. So,
wait, you were about to say CD, right?
Say what?
You were about to say CD, a brand new, and you said album rather than say CD, right?
No, I said sealed.
Yeah, okay, yeah, but
yeah, it's still sealed. So God knows if it's the original shrink or if it's fake shrink or whatever.
Oh, so it's a vinyl record. It's a vinyl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, but it's out of print. So, and I had a great deal of difficulty trying to get it. But I wrote down the legendary Pink Dots. I also picked one up from it's a 7-inch by the Psychotic Turnbuckles. I have no idea who they are. But it's a single that I decided that was all thrown into the order so that I could get, I wasn't paying so much for shipping. And in fact, I ended up buying so much that they took the shipping off. I'm not even paying for shipping.
Nice.
And it all started, which I mentioned at the beginning, you weren't on yet. I wanted to get a 7-inch single of Walk Away Renee by the Left Bank. It's just to me, I'm just infatuated with that song and the whole background about that song. And it's a wonderful song too. It's really quite a really sweet, lovely, pure pop. It's just a pop song from the 60s. Anyway, well, that's great, guys. I'm glad you brought the stuff, and we've closed out the 80s. Coming into there's still a lot of stuff that I wish I had from 1989 and 1988 there, because there was a lot of good stuff that I don't have yet.
I think it's very interesting.
Now we're going into the 90s.
I think it's very interesting because I do year charts, as many of you know. I've done some for the vinyl community for my channel, where I show best song from a certain year. And I do it for a Facebook group that I'm a part of. And the year we currently are charting right now, that is starting the September 15, is 1989. So I had pretty easy to check on my list and see what I needed to pick out.
Well, that's cool to see what's going to happen with 1990. My 1990s section is basically one cubicle. So, for individual years, I may not have a whole lot, but hey, it's still fun because the other thing I like about doing this is some of these records I pull out, I spend the week listening to them. So they're fresh in my mind. And some of these are records I haven't listened to in a long time. And I get a gut check. I go, yeah, I'm glad I have this in my collection. I haven't had one yet where I go, maybe I ought to sell this one. All right. Well, thank you. And thank you out there in the peanut gallery for sticking with us, especially when I had all those technical problems at the beginning. So I hope you enjoyed this. We'll do this again soon. Don't forget about us, the Gunkles. All right. Don't forget about us. We've got a new video up. And remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.